The Soul Sovereignty podcast is a deep dive into the core wounds and deeply embedded subconscious beliefs that reside within the collective psyche so that you can reclaim your sovereignty and embody your power to experience freedom in your relationships. It is hosted by Jessica Falcon, International Soul Embodiment Guide and Relationship Coach. Visit thepathtosovereignty.com to enter a portal of transformation.
Over the equinox portal, I recorded a live teaching on sexual sovereignty, the power of your womb, and how to become a vessel of truth as part of a divine feminine sovereignty event. It was an offering because when we reclaim the feminine as divine, we create the capacity to embody our divinity and we become the change we seek. That's always been one of my favorite quotes, is to be the change you wish to see. And we all know that there's a lot happening in the world right now. There's a lot of distortion, there's a lot of wounding, and we can focus on what's happening. We can get wrapped up in that. Or what we can do is we can create the shifts within ourselves. We can use this as an opportunity to change the way in which we show up. As I talk about in the Divine Feminine Sovereignty teaching, which you're going to receive today as a gift, I mentioned that when I was a criminal prosecutor, I also had worked on Capitol Hill for the governor's office. I realized that we do not affect systemic change without creating individual change, because the system is just a microcosm of the rest of society, that being you. So if you turn your focus from the external world right now and all the things that could keep you in fear or in survival state, and you start to turn your eyes inward and focus on the divine being on that you are, on your soul truth, and you begin to live from the inside out by sourcing from your divinity, then you create the shift in consciousness that is exactly what this planet needs right now. Now, I do offer, as part of the free event, a meditation to connect your womb to the womb of Gaia. If you want to receive that, that's not part of the live podcast, the free podcast. If you want to receive that as a gift, you can just email me at jessica@thepathtosovereignty.com or go to the website and sign up for the free online course, 12 Days of Transformation. And we'll be including it on that as well for you to receive that meditation for free. These three topics on sexual sovereignty, the womb, and becoming a vessel of truth, which is really remembering oracular gifts and creating the capacity to do so through your life force energy, through your womb, through your own body, then that is a huge aspect of the upcoming initiation into divine feminine power retreat in Greece this fall. We already have a couple spots taken. Space is limited to 7 women for this particular retreat. So if you are interested in that, go to thepathtosovereignty.com. The links will be below if you want to join us for that initiation and really work with the energies of the sacred sites so that you are fully reuniting your womb with the womb of Gaia and doing the healing that's required to reclaim your sexual sovereignty, which is really the reclamation of your divinity and your power and ownership of your own energy, your own self. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the teaching, and I'll see you on the other side.
What we're going to do is we're going to talk about these 3 core themes of sexual sovereignty, the power of your womb, and becoming a vessel of truth, which are also 3 of the core themes for the upcoming retreat in Greece, because they're so needed on this planet right now. And when we, several of you went to Greece last year, so you know, when we go to Greece, when we go to these sites, what we're doing is we're activating the energies in the sites, and then we're bringing them into the collective consciousness. We're activating them into the grid. And so it's not a coincidence that we are then experiencing collectively these same major themes that are at these sites. And right now we are seeing a lot of distortion around sexuality. We're seeing a lot of distortion rise to the surface. We're seeing a lot of wounds rise to the surface around sexuality, around the body, around power, around sovereignty or lack thereof. We are seeing them so that they can be brought to light, so that we can return to truth, so that we can heal the wounds and come back into harmony, back into balance, the symbolism of the equinox. And the equinox is perfect because it has this balance of the light and dark. And that's really also the capacity to hold and witness both the dark and the light, ultimately as one, ultimately as originating from the same source. And to not get lost in a battle, to not get lost in the illusion or the consciousness of separation. That can be really easy to do if we're perceiving the world through the lens of our purely physical human eyes. When we start to see the world from the lens of the heart, the lens of the soul, we have a very different perspective and a greater capacity to affect change and a greater capacity to grid onto the earth plane, a higher level of consciousness that creates the shift that is needed on this planet right now. And the shift that is needed on the planet is a return to love and a return to sovereignty and ownership of our own body and our own energy, including our sexual energy. One of the other reasons that these are the three main core themes is that the reclamation of the divine feminine, the reclamation of the feminine as divine, is part of how we create union and balance and harmony on this planet. And by feminine, when I talk about feminine, I'm not talking about an image of femininity that is portrayed. I'm talking about the feminine historically has represented the earth, has represented the body, has represented the soul, which is our divinity in form. And that recognition of our divinity in form is how we reclaim our sovereignty from the external world, begin to live from the inside out. So just as a reminder, sovereignty, if you haven't already listened to my podcast or worked with me, sovereignty is being your own authority. It is you own you. You own your soul, your energy, your body, your thoughts, your mind, your emotions. You are the master of yourself. No one outside of you decides who you are. You decide who you are. You live from the inside out, and you have the capacity to do this because you are sourcing from within. You are sourcing love from God, Goddess source within you. You are sourcing your worth, your value, your safety, and your belonging from within your connection to your divinity, which is one with the divine in all that is, that web of life, that as much as we have been conditioned to believe, particularly in the West, that we are separate from the web of life, that we can somehow be separate from the sun and the solstice and the equinox and all of these things, that's the illusion. It's impossible to be separate. There is nothing on this planet that we can do alone. Katie, I see that you're eating. There's no way that we could have food alone, to grow food, to transport food, to eat food, to prepare food. It is dependent on so many other things outside of us. To have a glass of water, we are one with the water. We are like, and the glass, I mean, there are so many ways that we cannot be alone, and yet we are very entrained to think that we are alone, which creates a deeper illusion of separation and a lack of belonging and feeling alone and feeling disconnected from the self, actually. So that's a little bit of why the equinox matters, and then what we're going to be getting in today and why I believe it's so important. And I talk about these things from an ancient perspective for two reasons. One is that when we look on an astrological or global scale, about 4,000 years ago, Pluto shifted and created what I believe was an astrological influence on what created this denial of a woman's sovereignty and power, and created unequal power dynamics. And guess what? Pluto is shifting right now for the next like 40 years, which is supposed to be getting rid of all of these unequal power dynamics and creating more balance on this planet. Not a coincidence that 4,000 years ago, that time, women were already sovereign and free. And then we went through this 4,000 to 5,000 year period in which that was denied us, and which we also forgot and created these wounded forms of power, so that now we can come back into a state of balance and power. So this is not only happening within us, this is happening outside of us astrologically on a global scale. So I think that's very important. And then also the ancient perspective provides us with the wisdom and understanding of what is possible. And it reminds us that it wasn't always this way. Because the beliefs that we have to confront in order to reclaim our sexual sovereignty and the power of our womb and to become a vessel of truth are beliefs that we have been told it's always been this way. It's just the way it is. This is who you are. This is your limitation. This is what you're allowed to do, not allowed to do. You are divine. You're not divine. This is good. This is bad. This is right. This is wrong. This is evil. We have been told all of these things are just the way it is in the Word of God. The Word of a God that didn't start to exist until 4,000 years ago. That prior to that, many other civilizations worshipped different gods and goddesses. And that just goes to show that this is not inherent truth. We either choose to believe that or we don't, because we operate according to our beliefs. And to be sovereign is to become conscious of your beliefs, both conscious and subconscious beliefs, so that you can start to live according to your soul truth, not according to what you're told. And that is incredibly, incredibly important right now. If you want to shift into freedom, you have got to do that work. And this ancient wisdom from me is also these ancient, what we could call mythological figures of the goddess Isis from Egypt, the goddess Inanna from Sumer, from the goddess Lilith from Sumerian and Hebrew literature. We could call them mythological figures, but to me, the way that they come to me, the way that I work with them, is that they are energies. They are energies that are here helping us, working with us consciously. I channel them. I'm a conduit for them, what I call the divine feminine collective. And they want us to remember these ancient pathways. They want us to remember these ancient powers. They want us to remember our sovereignty, so that we can begin working more consciously with the grid, so we can begin working more consciously with the earth, so that we can begin working more consciously to create a new humanity, which really starts with you embodying your divinity. That's how we create a new humanity. When I was a criminal prosecutor, I learned that as much as I had this idea of justice, and I worked in the political scene as well for the governor and on Capitol Hill. And I kept thinking, oh yes, we're going to make this change by working with these systems. And the reality is that the systems are simply a microcosm of individuals. And so if we don't affect individual change, the systems don't change. And so we have to change the quote system by changing ourselves, by aligning to a new truth. And then that also is the refusal to submit or obey to an old system that tells us that we're separate, or that tries to keep us in fear. And so this is why this is so incredibly important right now, because we all know what's happening out there. And what really matters is what's happening in here. That's what creates the change. And sovereignty requires that you turn your eyes inward. And one of the places, so we're going to talk about the power of the womb. And that is one of the places where we really need to be turning our attention. We really need to be looking. And feel free to put in the chat, or if you're watching the replay, reflect on what is your relationship with your womb currently. Do you already work with your womb? These are things to reflect on, and that you can also reflect on after today's recording. Do you already work with your womb? Do you connect with your womb? Do you even know what your womb is? Do you see your womb as your own? Do you see your womb as something that's just part of your body, or only there to make children? That's big illusion right there. Your womb just exists for your children, or your womb just exists for sex. Your womb just exists so you can go to the bathroom and bleed. Versus that your blood is part of your innate connection to the moon and the earth, or the recognition that your womb is your magnetic floor and allows you to magnetize what you desire to you, or that your womb is your capacity to create new life, not only new children, but to create new life, to create new projects, to create new things, to create and to embody deeper levels of your own pleasure and desire and sexuality, sensuality, beauty, to radiate more of who you are. That's all part of connecting to your womb. And when we see the womb as a thing, or we're disconnected from it, if we see the womb as something that's just a part of us and we're not dropping into it and working with it consciously, then we are perpetuating this idea that we are separate from the earth, because your womb is one with the womb of the earth. So just let that drop in for a second and feel like, this is not heady, okay? If we think about this from a purely rational, logical perspective, it can easily get confusing. Like, wait, my womb is one with the womb of the earth. Like, what does that even mean? How is that possible? Because the distortion is so big. And for 4,000 plus years, we've been so disconnected from it. So if you were to just even close your eyes and drop into, maybe place your hands, we're going to do a little practice in a second where I help you know what your energetic womb is. Because when I talk about womb, I'm not talking about your actual uterus. And men and women have an energetic womb. It's basically your whole pelvis. So if you would just drop a hand on your low belly and just feel, my womb is one with the womb of the earth. Do you notice anything arise inside of you? In your body, not your head, and your body. Yeah, it can be hard to stay in the womb because the womb holds so much. The womb holds all the things we push down. The womb holds all the things we fear. The womb holds all the suppressed anger. And the womb, we've often become vacant from the womb. I'm going to speak to that for a minute before we start to just learn a little bit more about where and what the energetic womb is. Because I've heard this from a lot of people. It's very common that there's a difficulty in connecting to the womb, the pelvis, that can be hard to stay there, that it feels empty, that it feels like no matter how much I try, I can't connect to it. It's like, wait, this thing is even really part of me, right? And so if you were to just ask yourself, if you're having this experience, or even if you're not, if you were to just ask yourself, why is it hard for me to stay here? Is there something I'm afraid of? Is there something that's actually wanting to come out that you keep pushing down? It can also be that. And we vacate from the womb very unconsciously at a very young age, because a part of us didn't feel safe being in the womb, either the mother or. We can also unconsciously vacate from the womb during trauma, especially sexual trauma. We can vacate from the womb when there's something we cannot emotionally process and we stuff it down way, way, way deep. And that could even be from a past life. Our womb is our seat of our power. So an unconscious fear of your power will also keep you unconsciously disconnected from your womb. I'm going to say that again because this is very important. An unconscious fear of your power as a woman, your feminine power, power rooted in your body, in your heart, in your wisdom, in your knowing, in your intuition, in your magic, and your presence. Not power over, not power under. Your power through your presence, you being embodied in your truth and your interconnection with all that is. Your fear of your power, unconscious or conscious, can unconsciously keep you afraid of your womb or disconnected from your womb. There's a little light language that wants to come through around this. When I speak light language, it's basically speaking to your soul, and it can also create energetic openings. So just breathe into that, because this is a big topic. It's yes, the power of our womb, the wisdom of our womb, but the womb is a massive topic. It's something we keep going back to in the Temple of Divine Feminine Power. It's something that we're going to be working with deeply in Greece. It's something that I've been meditating on and working with for, 12 years. And I'm always discovering new layers. Your womb is how you sit into and drop into you, the true you, the soul you, your inner self, your inner needs, your inner feelings, your inner experience. Your womb is how you deeply drop in to your knowing, what cannot be known by anybody but you. And so if our attention is out versus into the womb and anchored, then we cannot live from the inside out. We cannot be in our power. So anchoring into the womb can be a different process for each woman. So if you have a harder time, I would recommend working with me one-on-one or doing one-on-one type work. Because if it's a lot harder, then it can require navigating through different layers, different depths in order to really anchor in a new connection. So it just really depends on where you are and what's there and what wants to be uncovered. And you will just know that. And we can also just start to presence ourselves there and notice what comes up when we do. So if what comes up is, it's really hard for me to stay here, have a conversation with your womb about that. Like you're talking to a friend. Oh, it's really hard for me to stay here. I'm curious as to why. Can you help me understand? What are you holding? How can I connect with you more? Where would you like my attention? What do you want me to breathe into or see? Every single morning I say to my womb, what do you want me to see? What do you want me to hear? What do you want me to know? Where would you like my attention? Just to have an open-hearted inquiry and curiosity versus a demand. We don't go into the body to demand anything. That's part of the wounded power of this culture, this society, that we demand something, we get it done, boom, cross off that checklist. I connected with my womb today, right? I did my meditation today. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's based on a productivity model that is not rooted in feminine power, because feminine is about relationship. Feminine is about relationship. And that relationship begins with you relating with you in a very new way. You relating with your body as a holy temple of your soul. You relating with your body as the energy of your soul. You relating with yourself with curiosity and openness and compassion and love. You relating with, what is this here that you're holding? Is this something in my subconscious that I ingested from the outside world? Is this trauma that maybe is still here? Is this something in my nervous system that needs some attention? Is this my soul truth or my intuition or my own knowing? Is this a vision? Is this, me making something up, like all of these things. It's about being curious. It's about being an inquiry. It's about developing a relationship. Because if you're in a new relationship with a person, it's about asking questions, spending time, getting to know, not trying to change them, because then that's definitely not going to turn out very well in the long run. But you can allow them to show you who they are, just like you allow your womb to show you what's coming up. And if you don't like that thing that that person or the womb is showing you, you don't just stamp it down and pretend it's not there and ignore it, unless you want to end up in a lot of trouble 10 years down the road. You go, oh, this is really hard for me to see. Maybe I need support with this grief or anger that's coming up. Oh, this is really hard for me to see, but I'm willing to see this deep truth that you're telling me about how I want to be living my life, but I keep pushing down and ignoring. Oh, let me just be really curious and receive you as you are, and hold the capacity to receive you with love, knowing that no matter what, I'm going to anchor into my own power and my own truth. Whew. What a difference that makes, right? So let's connect to, for the sake of time, we're just doing kind of like introductions to each piece, or else we could talk for months and months about each of these things. Literally, that's why I have the online temple. So the energetic womb, we're just going to do a little practice where you can start to connect with what the energetic womb is. You can place your hands in an upside down V over the low belly. The thumbs can rest around your belly button. The fingers are pointed down towards your feet. I really like to do this lying down in the mornings, but you can also do this seated or standing. And then just close your eyes and place your awareness underneath the palms of your hands. And start to breathe. And just notice that belly breath. Maybe you normally belly breathe. Maybe belly breathing is new to you, but just to notice your belly breath. And let it rise and fall, gently pushing into your palms. So now we're just going to trace the energetic womb, which includes the low belly, up to where your thumbs are on your belly button, and about 2 inches above your belly button. Okay. So the top of the womb space would be considered the air element above the belly button. Below the belly button, about 2 inches, would be the earth element of the womb. This is from an ancient shamanic perspective. So just take it or leave it. Just breathe into the possibility. And then now bring your awareness to your low back from the belly button area down towards your sacrum, down towards your tailbone, down towards your perineum. All of this is part of the energetic womb. And then up through the yoni, back up to the low belly, back up to the belly button and slightly above. And then now around to the right, the whole right side of your pelvis, including your right ovary. And the right ovary is connected to the fire element, the sun. So maybe just intend to breathe into your ovary for a minute. Ovarian breath is a really powerful practice. That's something we'll be doing more on the temple in the next few months. In our ovaries. Okay, so then now bring your awareness over to the left side, the pelvis. And breathe into that left ovary, which is the water element, and the moon. So that's your energetic womb. So just breathe here for another couple of seconds, just stating any intentions that you have to connect to your womb. even if you're afraid. And just, again, talk to your womb like you talk to a friend, like you're starting in a relationship. I really want to get to know you. I really want to form a relationship with you. And I'm also feeling a little hesitant or a little afraid, or I'm not sure how to connect with you. Can you help me? Imagine if we just all talk to each other like that, right? We would have much better relationships. It would be a lot more authentic. Okay. So you can open your eyes if you'd like, or you can keep them closed for a minute. I just want to reiterate the power of the womb as an energetic portal to the Great Mother, to the earth. I'm feeling some clearing going on in the group as you connect to your womb. It's beautiful. So your womb connects you to the web of life, which is why your womb is your magnetic floor, which is why you create through your womb, because as you're creating, what you're doing is you're creating through the web of life. You are creating a frequency, a field, an intention, an energetic that then allows life to respond to that energetic frequency you're creating and intending and weaving and working with through your own energetic field. And your womb also is the storehouse of your life force energy, which is your sexual energy. Now, unfortunately, in the English language, we confuse sexual energy with the quote act of sex with another person. And I think that's just part of our language limitation, because the ancients understood that sexual energy is life force energy. And the seat of that is your energetic womb. Now, I want to mention one other thing is that because the root is included in the energetic womb, it's important to mention that stabilizing into the root and to the womb is a huge part of how you stabilize into your divinity and anchor that safety internally so that you can be seen in your power, so that you can be seen in your truth, so that you can be seen in your magic and your feminine power and magic. We have often been disconnected at the root, one, from the Great Mother, from the earth, from the goddess, which I'll talk about in a second. We've also been disconnected from that root because of our fear of being who we are, because we were killed for it. And so that can create destabilization in the root, which doesn't allow us to anchor in. So we've got to do more work down there to recreate that sense of belonging, to create that sense of safety and that holding and that support that is available when we start to really work with the root. And I'm actually sensing that we hadn't made that one of the months in the Temple of Divine Power, but I think we might spend a whole month on that because that's been coming up very, very big this month, especially as we move into the astrological new year today, that rooting is incredibly important. Okay, so yes, you mentioned in the chat that confusion between life force energy and sexual energy is part of the wounding. It is part of the wounding because the wounding, many woundings around sexuality, but if I were to summarize the wounding of the feminine, and I'll get to you in a second, Coletta. If I were to summarize that as briefly as possible, because I could writing a whole book about the wounding, is that, and the healing, right? We talk about the wounding to talk about the healing, not to stay in the wounding. But the wounding is that our sexual energy exists for the benefit of another person. That is huge. Or even that our body exists for another person. Our wounding is that we have been disconnected from the web of life and from the earth and from all that is, and told that we're separate. So we think that this life force energy, when it feels sensual and alive and radiant and magnetic, we think that, oh, then I have to direct it to another person and have sex. oh, that my desire is about you. It's not about that person. And maybe you can consciously choose to engage in a sexual act with that person because you're feeling desire. But a lot of that is just your own aliveness and to be used to create new realities on this planet and to be an ecstatic communion with the earth and life and nature. And instead we're like, oh no, I'll go to the bed and direct all of that to you and not circulate it and not work with it and not channel it and not allow it to bring our whole energetic field into a whole new state of reality and co-creation with this life. So, whew. I want to mention, for those of you listening, I know that those of you who are here live already know this, but that when I'm talking about the energetic field, what I'm talking about is that the body is formed by the energy of your soul, and we are all energy. Even the physical body is energy in motion. And we know this from quantum physics. The ancients knew this before quantum physics proved it. They were already working with this, but we now have kind of proof scientifically, even though it's still disputed by people who, we have to see it to believe it, right? Everything, every single cell is constantly vibrating and making a sound. It's just not audible to our human ears. And our energy field is both within us, which is why we connect to the body. It's to connect to the energy of the body. And then the energy field expands around us up to a couple of feet around your whole body. Part of sexual sovereignty, huge part of sexual sovereignty, is ownership of your energy as yours. It does not belong to anybody else. It does not exist for the benefit of anybody else. You might choose to share your energy with another person, but that is by choice and it remains yours. It's shared and can expand with another person sharing their energy, but it remains their energy, it remains your energy, and then they might unite and expand into something else. But you're not giving it away, and that right there is part of the wounding. Because 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, when women were cut off from the earth, from their direct ecstatic connection to the earth as the source of life, when men were also cut off from that, and I actually believe that men being cut off from that is what then created the disconnection of women from that, is that this wounding of this separation then meant that we had to go, one, seek it from outside of us because we didn't have it directly anymore, try to get it through sex or get it through something else or get it through these other false forms of pleasure that aren't from the self. They're to like fill a void. There's a big difference. But also it created, this is the same time when men started to rape women. This is the same time when sexual abuse started, historically speaking, that we have evidence of. This is the time when men started to harvest the energy of women's wombs to feed their own life force energy because it was vacant inside of them. And so they were taking. And then, you know, when you have that much taking and you're disconnected from the earth, so you're disconnected from refilling your life force energy, then what happens? Empty, void, very difficult to connect to your womb. Very difficult to feel sovereign, to feel powerful, because your power, your juice, your life force is just being extracted. So then how in the world are you supposed to be in your power? And that was the whole point. That was the reason for the disconnection, to keep women from their power. That was the reason. So it is a radical, powerful act to reconnect to your womb, to anchor it into the earth, to reconnect your womb with the womb of the earth, which we're going to be doing a lot more of this year in Greece, which you can do from anywhere in the world. It's not limited to going to a particular place. You can intend to, and we'll do this practice at the end of today. You can intend to reconnect your sexual energy, your life force energy, your womb to the womb of the earth, to earth energy, because sexual energy is earth energy. So what they're actually extracting is the earth. Go figure. Oil as one example of another way that we extract. Coal is another example of one way they extract. Food is another example of how we extract and don't give back with modern day practices. Extracting, 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 extracting. That's the wounding. That's the power over. That's the denial of our interconnection with all things. And that true receiving is always giving back. Always giving back. That's the heart. That's the knowing of our interconnection with all things and all of life. I receive, I give. The more I receive, the more I can give. That's the truth of feminine power. It's not, oh, I just want to receive. Give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. It's just, that's not heart. That's ego. That's ego. We are very familiar with ego. We're not as familiar with soulful divine living, heart-based living. And we get to look at the ways within ourselves that we agreed to that extraction, even the ways we try to extract information from our own bodies without gratitude or without connection and relationship first. That's actually perpetuating the wound. And that's very important to understand, because the feminine has developed a lot of wounded forms of power, even to lure in a man, to get him to want her, all of these things. I'm going to be the image of what you call sexy. I'm going to give you what you want, so you want me. I want you, not because I want you, because I want you to want me. I mean, so many forms of wounded feminine power that exist as a result of this extraction and this denial of our interconnection with all things, and our true disconnection from our power creates these wounded forms of power. That part of coming into your feminine power, whether you join the retreat, whether you join the temple, whether you do this on your own or you do it with something else, part of your feminine power, it's very important to understand, is seeing the ways you have misused it. You have to go through that portal. Hecate is one of the main guides that really led me through that portal, and Lilith. You've got to go through this portal of seeing the ways that you have also extracted and misused and taken and engaged in a misuse of power, or power over, or power under, in order to fully anchor into your true power and your sovereignty. That's part of the path. And around sexuality, what is very common in the current society is that we call sexual liberation having sex with anyone, anytime, which is actually continuing the devaluing of self and your own energy. That is not to say that you cannot have sex with a person you're not in a committed relationship. That is not what I'm saying. It's all about the self-valuing and the anchoring in and ownership of one's own energy. There's a big difference. And this reclamation of sexual sovereignty is really looking at the ways in which you are seeking something outside of you, even being valued or desired, quite big, unconscious seeking in the feminine, versus wanting to be an overflow and share in relationship, including sexuality. Wanting to get something, wanting to commune and connect. So to commune with something, this is also part of how we become a vessel of truth. To commune with something is becoming one with. It is opening your heart to it, and appreciation and connection, and which you are receiving that thing, like, let's say, sitting in nature, watching the water. You are receiving the water into you. You are seeing the water as it receives you. You are receiving it as it receives you. You are giving attention as it's giving to you. So you are in that constant giving and receiving, giving and receiving, giving and receiving. So communion is that appreciation, that time, that connection, and then the heart is open, and it creates that communion. You can almost see it as like an infinity shape, an 8. That communion. And that communion is the interconnection. It's the union, which is really ultimately, to me, the highest state of ecstasy and bliss. Okay. I'll let somebody else in. Hopefully they're not. So that communion is really important. And so we're just talking about how to become a vessel of truth right now. So that communion is really important because when the oracles, say, for example, in Delphi, were prophesying and giving their visions and connecting to the voice of Gaia. So just to back up for a second, one of the places we go to in Greece is Delphi. And I know, again, a couple of you here went to Delphi with me last year for the retreat. And when we go to Delphi, we go to this site of where the ancient oracles gave prophecy, or had oracular visions, and people would travel all over the world to see them. And one of the ways in which, or the primary way rather, in which they were able to do this before Apollo took over, was that they would literally channel Gaia. And it was through this energetic communion. It was through this ecstatic communion in which they became one with the earth, one with the water, and they allowed their body to be a vessel for truth to move through them. Just as sexual energy, life force energy, when we're in our sovereignty, is reconnecting to the earth, allowing the earth energy to come up, to move through you, allowing the energy to come up to, you were like a vessel for this energy to move through you, to enliven you, to your vitality, to your radiance, your magnetism, your sensuality. It's just life moving through you because you're reconnected to the earth and you have opened the channels for that energy to move through. And it's not being extracted. You're not allowing it to be extracted because you're creating those boundaries. You're using that discernment. You're self-valuing and you're creating ownership over your own energy. So that sexual sovereignty is then what allows you to become a vessel of truth, because then you're anchoring into the earth. Your heart is open. You're in this energetic communion. You're receiving her, she's receiving you. And then you are allowing her voice, her truth, her energy to come up into the throat to be spoken. And so this throat chakra is intimately connected, even physically the way it looks, but also energetically, to your yoni, which is part of your energetic womb space that we went into earlier. They both have the same type of opening here. And your deep truth, if you're really talking about speaking your deep truth, or the truth of Gaia, the truth that lives within you, the truth that is the truth of all that is, right? This is not ego truth. This is not individual truth. What I'm talking about is truth with the big T. Truth that is in interconnection with all of life. Truth that is in interconnection with the divinity of all of life. When you're in that, then it's allowing it to move up and through. So then part of becoming a vessel of truth is healing that wounding of the ways in which you have unconsciously or consciously feared your truth. Feared being seen in your truth. Feared speaking your truth because you feared the result, whether it be that persecution wound, whether it be that that person will reject me, whether it be that I cannot be loved in my truth, as a deep held unconscious belief in the feminine from the programming that we've all received. It is really opening up these channels by working with what has stopped you, becoming conscious of that, and aligning to your soul truth so that you open the channel for the truth to move through you unimpeded. Part of becoming a vessel of truth is also, when they were communing, they were using the third eye as much as they were using the heart and the womb to commune with the earth. And the third eye is your capacity to see beyond the illusion of form to the energy underneath. Your third eye is your capacity to commune from this divine vision, this divine perspective. We use the third eye to go into the body to connect with the energy that is that life force, that is that sexual energy, so that you can direct it and master it, which is part of that sexual sovereignty that we talked about. And the third eye, they were able to use their vision and their intention and perceive the energetics of, say, the earth or the water that the ancient oracles were communing with. to then receive that into them, and also to ensure, this is important to say, that the frequency is of the highest frequency of divine love, because there are energies on this planet that are not aligned with divine love. And so when you're opening yourself up to be a vessel, to be a conduit, to be a channel, then it's very important that you are aligning and attuning to a high enough frequency that lower frequencies do not have access to you and cannot interfere, which is that extraction of the wounding of the sexual energy, for example. It's really mastering your energetic field so that you can tell when something is coming in from outside of you that is not of the purest and highest intention. One thing that I think it's really important to mention is that there were also oracles in many other places around the world, not just in Delphi, though they are the most infamous because they were revered as oracles for, I think it's like 800 plus years, in which people from all over traveled to go see them. And they initially, around at least 800 BC, but possibly up to 1500 BC, were channeling Gaia. When Apollo came in around 500 BC, they kind of changed the practices with the oracles. And some would say that's when some of the wounding took place. And the oracles then were forced to speak not the truth with a capital T, but to fulfill political ideologies. So they were not allowed to channel freely anymore as vessels of truth. And that created deep woundings in the throats of ancient oracles and deep woundings in their sense of betrayal of the earth, because they stopped channeling Gaia. They started channeling for men, so to speak, who were working in political positions of power. And that same type of wounding, I know, that same type of wounding can exist in a lot of us that we have to heal, of ways in which we have not only suppressed the truth or feared the truth that lives within us, but that we have also kind of shifted the truth, misspoken, lied, withheld, deceived, even unconsciously, to stay safe, to stay protected. Really clearing the throat and reconnecting it with the yoni, with the womb, and with the heart is part of that opening that channel, is part of that healing, and working with the beliefs and the woundings that come up. So one thing I want to mention, though, is that we also had these oracles in Malta. Now, Malta is an island. It's south of Sicily, and it's where they have found some of the most ancient temples to date. The most ancient temple anywhere is in Turkey, but the most ancient megalithic temple, by megalithic, it's like stones that weigh 20,000 pounds. Massive stones. I mean, they are so massive. Like me standing next to the stones, it was like my body, and I'm like basically 5'6". My body next to these stones was like maybe a quarter the size of these stones, maybe an eighth of the size of these stones. I mean, just they are so big and so massive and pure stone. And these temples are 6,000 and 7,000 years old. I'm thinking about doing a retreat there in another year. So we'll see. They hold really galactic energies, but there's also a lot of interference with these temples. But the point of this conversation is that the oracles were also in Malta. They were infamous for the oracles as well. And what I find really interesting is that in Delphi, one of the main symbols of the oracles was, of course, the serpent. And in Delphi, they called it the python, or they were called the Pythia for channeling. And the serpent is intimately connected to this oracular capacity to be a vessel of truth, which I'll talk about in a minute as to why. And also spirals. So just that spiral formation. And that spiral formation is very connected to the serpent energy. But in Delphi in particular, the energy that comes up from the land is a spiral that then turns into the serpentine kind of formation as it travels up the body. And in Malta, you go into this one oracular cave in the Hypogeum, if I'm saying that correctly, in Malta, which I did on my birthday in 2024. It was really amazing. And when you go into this underground chamber, in the oracular sound chamber, they also have on the ceiling in red ochre, red serpent shapes and red spirals. And to me, that is not a coincidence, because as I was explaining earlier, with the power of the womb, with your sexual energy and the oracles and the way they worked, both of those are symbols of earth energy. And we cannot, it's so hard in some ways for our modern day heads to wrap our mind around working with earth energy so consciously and so intently, because we have been so disconnected from the earth and from nature. We've been told that we're separate for 4,000 plus years. And this idea that we're separate is also what can really keep us from being the oracles and giving the prophecy and owning our sexual energy and connecting with the power of the womb, because your womb is intimately connected to the womb of the earth. Your womb is intimately connected. And as you reroot and re-anchor your womb, which we're going to start to do in a practice today. So I'll stop talking soon so we can get to that. We reroot and re-anchor into the womb of the earth. And then you start to consciously then bring the energy up into your body, that life force energy, that sexual energy, but you're creating ownership, like we talked about. And then you're allowing this channel to be open. You're allowing it to move through you. You're in your discernment. You're in your boundaries. You're in your self-valuing. And then you're allowing it to come and be expressed through you. Part of that is that alignment to that divinity and to that soul, because the feminine is the soul. And so then it's coming through always in the highest and best good of everyone. It is coming through as truth that is aware of the interconnection of all of life, and is aware of this innate harmony that today's equinox actually represents and is a portal to. So, okay. I think for time's sake, we should go ahead and go into the practice. And before we do, I want to respond to Kavita. I kind of responded to your question earlier about wanting to connect to the womb and then doubts that the womb wants that connection. And I love that you said that. I've heard several people say that of, I want it, but I'm not sure my body wants it. I want it, but I'm not sure my womb does. And I find that so fascinating, because your womb is yours. Why would it not want to connect with you? It's already yours. Your womb is the energy of you, and you are intimately one with the earth already, one with the goddess already, one with all of life already. So this is really about unraveling. Sometimes when we go into the womb and we have this difficulty in staying there, as was expressed earlier, part of it is because we have to unravel the ways we have kept ourselves separate from it. We have to unravel ourselves from these ways that we have disconnected. It's really our own disconnection. And even though our energy was harvested and our sexuality has been misused and taken for the benefit of others for millennia, even though all of that has happened, it is still yours. It's about reclaiming ownership, reclaiming possession, reclaiming right relationship with your womb, and working with that energy consciously. And again, this can take time, which is why I recommend either working one-on-one or joining a temple or a space where you can have consistent connection to this, because it's not a one and done kind of thing. This is building an entirely new relationship rooted in very ancient truths and reconnection to parts of self. It's really about reconnecting with self. And so of course your self wants to reconnect with self, and there can be resistance and fear. And then it's holding space for that with love and compassion. So I hope that's really helpful. Journaling and asking questions, talking with the womb, getting really curious, it's part of that path to reestablishing that connection. And it doesn't happen overnight. Like I said, I've been meditating and connecting with my womb for at least 12 years, and I'm always opening new doors. Always opening new doors, because your womb is a portal to the cosmos. It's a portal to the earth. It is a portal to the multidimensional aspects of your reality and to your divinity. It really is.